For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Tochi, aka Papa Dr. Tochi. And we're going to talk about the spiritual significance of your name. So get your drink, get your book, get your snack, get your notebook and pen, your drink, your snack. We're going to talk about the spiritual significance of your name. Okay? Let me make sure that the YouTube folks are situated, and then we can get started. Thank you very much, Helen Michael, for the likes. I appreciate you. Please remember to like and share the video. That lets other people know the class has started. Thank you so much, Helen Michael. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to learn a lot today. I kind of prefer looking at myself on TikTok because I'm better looking on TikTok, okay? I just love these filters, just smooths out everything, gives me the perfect makeup. I need to learn how to make my face up the way it looks on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? So thank you to all of you who are joining. I'm just trying to make sure that the YouTube folks are situated, and then we're going to start the class. Okay, so if you need to just go grab a drink and a snack, that's fine. Grab your notebook and your pen, and we're going to talk about the spiritual significance of your name. Okay, many of us think that, oh, I just ended up with this name. What does it even mean? Why did my parents give me this name? And let's put it under spiritual explanation. I'm putting it under certain categories on YouTube so that when people come back, they can find it. Okay. So please take a moment to like and share. And I'm going to just try this little experiment on YouTube and leave it open for anyone to comment. Generally, I don't do that. Hi, Missy Faye. Yeah, so generally I don't do that because of spam and bots and things of that nature. So, because you just have people just hopping on and putting nonsense there. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just restrict it to subscribers. It's just too much to manage. You know what I mean? It's just too much to manage because I want to be doing what we do without having to worry that we have people coming in and putting in explicit material. So, okay, so there we go. So we're good on YouTube. Okay, so remember to like and share. Remember to like and share. Okay, I appreciate the likes and the shares. Today we're going to talk about the spiritual significance of your name. Okay, I know a lot of times people feel that, hey, how did I end up with this kind of name I ended up with? Or they have questions, can I go ahead and change my name? Okay, if I change my name, is it going to favor me? Is that going to be to my benefit to change my name? And we're going to talk about that. Okay. So before we start, just a little bit of plug here. If you need to book me for your divinations, consultations, spiritual practice coaching, dream interpretation, and more, please go to my website at tochi.us. Okay, I don't do transactions outside of my website. Okay. On my website, I also have products, spiritual products. I also have protection bracelets. I have favor bracelets, favor and protection soap. I usually recommend a consultation before you purchase. Okay. Um, I have portable altars. You know, if you're on the road or if you're in a temporary situation and you need to have an altar, I do have portable altars. They come complete with incense and candles and the holders and everything. Okay. Um, I do have a course, Spiritual Practice One, also on my website. You can invest in that to learn how to properly set up your altar, what to do when you have one. And you can stream it as many times as you like. Okay. Um, there's just a lot. I have a lot of ebooks too on the website. So help yourself. There's no excuse nowadays not to know. Okay, we have no excuse these days not to know what to do and how to do what we need to do. Okay, to use spirituality to improve our lives. Okay, all right. So, what's in a name? What's in a name? Okay, before a child is born, um, ideally, the parents are thinking about the name, the mother, the father, but at least, the mother is thinking about the name. Okay, what name are we going to give this child? Okay, um, sometimes the parents are inspired. Okay, they get an inspiration. Sometimes the mother might have a dream, and if you've ever been pregnant, you know that having dreams about your unborn child are not uncommon. Okay. Um, Pregnant women often get messages about their child, okay, when they're pregnant. Sometimes they will get a message saying, name this child this, or name this child that. Okay. And we have stories, allegorical stories in scriptures in scriptures of different religions that talk about that. Okay. So, for instance, when you look at the Christian Bible and they talk about Mary being visited by the angel, giving her information about her child, we understand that that's an allegory. Okay. Um, Women who, I certainly had it for mine. Okay. You will have dreams. There are sometimes you will be in a trance and information will come to you about your unborn child. Okay. And you, it is best that you take action on that information when it comes to you. Okay. Because there's a reason why that information comes to you. Some pregnant women will have dreams of their parents or grandparents coming and giving them information about the child. Okay, that's not uncommon. Please remember to like and share. Please remember to like and share the video. That lets other people know that class is in session. Okay, please take a moment to give me a thumbs up or give me a heart. That lets other people know that class is in session. I appreciate it. Okay. Thank you for helping me out with that. Okay, because I have people saying they switch on their notifications, and for whatever reason, they're not getting notification that class is in session. Okay, so if you have a moment, please a thumbs up, a like. Okay, so there are women who will dream of, or they may dream of someone significant to them in a religious way or spiritual way coming to them and saying, hey, here's a kind of child you're going to have, and here's a name that you need to give that child. Okay. And, when we disable that. Okay, so when we look at the story of Jesus, look at the story of John, his cousin, remember that their mothers were visited and told what to name their children. And if you go to the Quran, if you go to other religions, you will find that too. Even when we look at indigenous religions as well, you will find that too. People having dreams and being told this is what to name your child. But the question is, why those specific names? Hi, Mr. Peter. Why those specific names? Why are they being told to give their children these names? Okay. Why can't what's the spiritual significance that they need to get this delivered message to name their child something? Okay. Now there are some parents who will read a book or watch a movie and they like the character in the book or the movie and they name their child after that and they think, oh, it's just by chance. No, it's not chance. Okay. There are some people who say, oh, I want to give my child a unique name. So they'll name their child after a fruit, a flower, a country. I got to meet someone, young lady, Hispanic lady, whose name was Canada. Okay. Some are Mercedes, like the Mercedes Benz. I met someone whose name is Iran, like the country. Thank you for the follow. And sometimes you're like, well, what kind of name is that? And the parent is like, I was inspired to give this name. Okay. There are some people who, for because of the strange or unfortunate circumstances of their birth, just got assigned a name. Maybe they got assigned the name of the person who rescued them or adopted them. Um, so that they could be identified. But from a spiritual perspective, that's not a mistake either. Okay, that's not a mistake either. Greetings, JS Barco. Okay, so what do we need to know about the significance of these names? What do we need to know? Oftentimes, these names are a guide or a symbol, signifier of what that person came here to do. If you start digging into your name, start doing the research, it should help to give you your clue what you came here to do. Okay? Even when your parents name you after their parents or name you after someone else in the family, it's still a clue. Yes, J.S. Sparkle, you're correct. Our name is a frequency. And we'll get to that. Okay. So I know there are people who are kind of unhappy with their names. Okay. They're like, why did my mother or my father give me this kind of quirky name or strange name? I don't like that name. That name is a definition, it's a scope, it's an indicator of what you came here to do. Some people change their names, like they might go to court and change their names, or they might adopt a name, or um, they're like, don't call me this, call me that. That in itself also has significance and also has impact. But the primary energetic imprint comes with the birth name. The primary energetic imprint. You may not like the name. You may not like whom you're named after. But there's a lesson to be learned, a spiritual lesson to be learned from that name that you got assigned. And if you know what to do, you can leverage that name on a spiritual level for your benefit. And I do have a video I made several years ago about names, how to use your names in prayer, how to use your own name when you're praying. Okay. Remember to like and share so that others will know that class started. Thank you, Princess Rookie Green. Okay. So I talk about it in that YouTube video. And like I said, if you go to my YouTube channel and you search for it, you will find that video. Okay. When I made that video, some people said my name or their name had a sorrowful or sad connotation. There are some people, when you translate their names, they don't sound positive. And in such cases, those names should serve as a tool, a teaching tool, a warning. And when the person uses it in their prayers and invocations, they will say to their spiritual crew, do not let this be my portion. Don't let this be my destiny. Don't let this be my final outcome. Now, some people end up with weird names or strange names or negative names because of their activities from a previous incarnation. So they show up for this incarnation and they get labeled. And that label is Gladys, Gladys, Gladys. All right. Um, for those of you on YouTube, Gladys K. Kravitz wrote here, poor Northwest. We're not going to go there, Gladys. Okay. So there are some people who get those names because of what they did in a previous incarnation. And so the name in this incarnation is a reminder of what they did and what they need to correct. So you see that ultimately that name points to what the person is supposed to do. It points to what they're supposed to do. When you have a common name like Mary, Maria, Miriam, for instance. People might not realize that it does have a sorrowful connotation. Okay. But there's so many people called Mary, Maria, Miriam, Mare, Mara, variations on that name, Maria or Mary. And sometimes these are people who caused others to cry in a previous life. Okay. Now Marlene, I don't know if Marlene. I'm not going to say what I don't know, so I don't know about Marlene being connected to Mary, but I know Marie is. And so part of what they're here to do, beautiful and big hugs to you too, is to find joy and to give others joy and not create sorrow for others. And I know of some Marias that create sorrow for others instead of creating joy. And you see that they are going against what they're supposed to do. Okay. Some names are act as reminders of past glory. Okay. And the glory is to continue in this incarnation. Okay. So someone shows up here and their name is royalty, Lord, King, Queen. Okay. That is how they are expected to conduct themselves. And here we're just looking at the first names. We haven't even gotten to the last names or the surnames. Remember back in the day, people used to have only one name. It was when colonization came around to some lands that they're like, no, we need to be able to differentiate between this person and that person so that we can count them and we can enumerate them. But back in the day, people used to be identified by their names, first names, and their parents. And so that's why you will hear Mary, the daughter of Elizabeth, Mary, the wife of Joseph, Mary, the daughter of Josephat. That's how people used to be identified back in the day. And if you can go and look at your own lineage, your own background, okay, your family tree, you will find out that at some point in the past in your own family tree, people were identified that way, even though they had a surname. So it could be Mary Smith, the daughter of Glenda Barlow. That's how people used to be identified, and there are people that are still identified that way. So when you hear things like Abramson, Paulson, with that son at the end, is the son of. Like in Jewish tradition, you'll have Jesus bar Joseph, son of Joseph. I'm just using that as an example. Okay. It's why women of faith book use their maiden name too. Okay. So having surnames is a fairly recent thing. People didn't have that before. I could look at someone and say, "Oh, Peter, the son of Gichanga," and everybody will know who I was talking about. But let's say Gichanga had a brother who also named his own son Gichanga, okay? You would have two Peters. They will say Tall Peter and Short Peter, Big Peter, Little Peter, and so on and so forth. I have that in one of my lineages where two men with the same name and the same surname were identified by their complexion. One was the light one and one was the dark one. Okay. So names can be pretty significant. In some cultures, people give names to their children based on the experiences going on in that family. Okay, Abigail says Mick, Mick is connected to the father, Matt is connected to the mother. I did not know that. And isn't that a Scottish thing or Irish thing? Okay, hello, John. It's a Scottish thing? Okay, okay. So, did y'all hear that? So, Abigail shared with us that when you have Mick, MC, it's connected to the father, while MAC, Mac, is connected to the mother. See, we learned something new, all right? And we're not talking about uh, entertainers that go and add Mick or O apostrophe. There are some Africans that, let's say, for instance, the name is Otieno. The person will put O apostrophe Tieno, O Tieno, okay, or O Lua, or O Kori. They're trying to anglicize their names. We're not talking about that, okay. So again, there are people who would give their children names based on the circumstances they're going through. Okay, that's not uncommon in a lot of cultures. If they're going through a hardship and they have a baby, they might give the baby a name that resonates with the bringer of wealth or the bringer of hope. They'll look for a name to reflect what is happening in the family, or what they want to happen in the family. And that becomes an indicator of that child's life destiny. You're here to bring us wealth. You're here to bring us joy. You're here to bring us peace. And when that child deviates from that, there's confusion. Because that's what that child came to do. Okay. So take a moment and look at your name, your birth name. Before you start looking at your adopted name, take a moment to look at your birth name, your first birth name, and let's discuss. Okay, Abigail, my grandmama changed the spelling of our family name from Barber in Germany to Barbour in Germany to Barber in USA. Yes, and a lot of families anglicized in order to fit in and to blend in. Okay. But if you wanted to do the research for yourself, Abigail, you would start from researching Abigail. So let's look at Abigail. What's the meaning of Abigail? Okay, let me do a quick Google search here. Abigail. So I'm doing Abigail name meaning, and I'm not selecting a Bible or anything like that. I'm just doing general. Okay, so Abigail is a Hebrew name. Okay, you're saying your mother took it from the Bible, King David's wife, but that's not the meaning. We want to know the meaning, not where it came from. So Abigail is a feminine given name. The name comes from the biblical Hebrew, meaning my father's joy. Alternatively, my father is exalted or my father is joyful. It is also a surname, so some people have it as a surname. So let's look at that name, Abigail. My father's joy. My father is exalted. My father is joyful. Does it give you an indication, some kind of signpost as to what you're supposed to be doing? You are meant to be a bringer of joy. And anything that prevents you from bringing joy is anathema to you, is taboo for you, Abigail. And when we talk about Father's joy, are we just talking about your direct father? Or are we talking about all your fathers? So, do you see how deep this goes? Abigail, from the little I'm seeing, is the one who serves the fathers. You are the one who presents the offerings to the male lineage, the fathers, father, grandfather, great grandfather, great 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 grandfather. Get the picture? To the males. There are some cultures where the males only ate from the pot of one dedicated woman. They never ate from any other woman's pot. There's only one woman they would eat from her pot. So, do you see how deep that name is? Anything that doesn't bring you joy is anathema to you. Anything that prevents you from bringing joy is taboo for you, Abigail. Do you see how that is? Abigail, joy is a high priority for sure. It is what you're here to do. You are the one to serve your male lineage. If you had a family ancestral altar, you're the one to make the presentation to the male lineage. If people needed to speak with that male lineage, you would be the intermediary, you would be the advocate. And when you would approach that male lineage, you would say, Abigail is here. The joy of my fathers is here. I am the one who has been called for this position. Does that make sense? Cake says you're speaking to me. Because there's something about your lineage that requires a dedicated person for the male lineage. Someone dedicated to the male lineage, the one who preserves, that male lineage. And sometimes we think it's only the males that preserve the male lineage. We can see right now that that's not the case. Abigail is the one from whose pot they ate with confidence. Because remember back in the day, people used to be so concerned about their lives and where they ate. They didn't want to get poisoned. So they had to be very careful where they ate. Okay? I hear you. I'm not my father's favorite or his joy because he didn't understand what you came here to do. There's no guarantee that parents understand what their children came here to do. And I've talked about this in a different class. There are many times you have parents interfering in what their child came to do, and the child's spiritual crew moves them out of the way, moves the parent out of the way, if it's that serious. So the fact that you're not his joy or his favorite is unfortunate. Is he still living? I'm coming to everybody else, but let's finish with Abigail. Okay, so are you on speaking terms with him? Okay. Have someone, you don't have to do this yourself, have someone send him a little note saying, Abigail, and here's the meaning. You can grab that from Google the same way I grabbed it from Google. They would write that out, put it in an envelope, mail it to him, and then watch what happens. I like the way that Khalil Gibran, the Lebanese poet, said, your children are not your children. Your children are not your children. They came so that you might guide them. And many times as parents, we don't do that. We see our children as our mini me's. Oh, that the things I wasn't able to do, I'm gonna have my children do it. Or I just want to have some little servants. Yeah, okay. So go read the poem he wrote about children, parents and children. Some of us see our children as little servants, which is unfortunate. No, we bring them here for them to be guided. Okay, all right. So we good, Abigail? We good? There are some people who have hybrid names. Okay. There are some people who have hybrid names. I've met some people that their parents took some letters out of the mom's name and some letters out of the dad's name, or they modified one parent's name. So let's say, for instance, they were expecting a boy and the father's name was Robert. And instead of a boy, they got a girl, so they'll name the girl Robert or Roberta. It's not a mistake. Or maybe um, Robert is the father and Alice is the mother. And so they decide to name the child Rabalis or Rablis. You know, I'm just making this up. Feel free to laugh. Okay, so the child is walking around with the name Rablis because the parents decided to take the R-O-B out of the Robert and the L-I-C-E out of the Alice and call the child Rablis or Robless. Okay. Still not a mistake. And if you're aware of that kind of hybridization or syncretization of a name, you look at the meaning of both names. Now I'm looking at someone on YouTube wrote, "My name is La Monica. Will you please check mine too?" What does La Monica mean? Because I've never heard of that. See, just a quick look on Google. Okay, Abigail says, "I'm named after the goddess Demeter, Demetrius." Okay. Now let's look at LaMonica. LaMonica, the first name LaMonica originates from Italian roots and is derived from the term lamo, which means to cry. And the variations are Damonica, La Bonita, Ramonita. Is LaMonica the one who is meant to cry? And crying can be interpreted a number of ways. You can have the sorrowful crying, or you can have the prophetic kind of crying. Remember, John the Baptist used to cry out in the wilderness, "Repent." And so when I look at a name like that, I am looking at past life information. I am looking at past life information. Was this a person who made others cry and now they're here and it is their turn to cry? Or are they here as a whistleblower like John the Baptist? My father named after a football player. Doesn't matter. Remember, we were saying that before, it doesn't matter. Even if your parents took the name from a book, there is a prompting to do so. There are hundreds of football players. Why that particular one? Why did that particular one appeal to your father? Why did that football player attract the attention of your father? And so you need to start looking at your life and saying, to cry, the root meaning of the name is to cry. It doesn't mean that the name itself is to cry, but remember I said the root meaning comes from lamo, to cry. When I think of lamonica, I think of harmonica, a musical instrument. So is it an instrument for crying? An instrument, a tool for letting out emotions? Is it the one who cries? The one who reminds others of what happened in the past, the crier? Okay? There are some in some cultures where they hire people to cry during a funeral. Okay? So LDKR, look at what's going on with you. Have there been tears in your life? Have you been the producer of tears? Have you been making others cry? And if you have been the one making others cry, is there a reason why? Are there some things? Did you come here to remind people of what they ought to do or what they did? Thank you for the gift, Empress Anna. Abigail says, does she comfort others and hold space to cry with them? That's also a possibility. So LaMonica, you need to sit and say, what has been my life experience so far? Do I cry with others? Do I cry for myself? Am I crying out against others? Do I find that my life is full of crying? And what kind of crying? And then you start looking at the spiritual aspect of that. If I'm crying tears of sorrow, crying a lot because of negative things, what do I need to do to pay the debt that I incurred from my previous incarnation? If you're here to comfort others, thank you so much, Empress Anna. I'm honored myself. If you're the one who is the empathic one, the sympathetic one, you're the supporter, the advocate, the comforter. Are you doing that? And in your case, LaMonica, I would suggest you go get a divination to know more about your life destiny because it's really interesting. Okay? We good, LaMonica? I'm waiting to hear back from LaMonica. Okay, good. Let me look at TikTok here and see. Uh, Hi, Millennial Aaron. Okay, thanks for the follow. I'm looking at TikTok to see if someone wrote something I need to talk about here. Okay. Okay, Abigail says, I also hold space and grieve with other mothers that have buried a child. And in some places, in some cultures, that's a thing. You have someone who comes and mourns with you, someone who comes to witness your grief. Okay, LaMonica says, I cry when I pray, and I cry with others too. Okay. And you'll be surprised how powerful your cries are. And I would hazard a guess. Remember, I'm not doing a divination here, but I would hazard a guess that if someone offends you and you cry, and your cries touch the ground, there are repercussions for the person who offended you. Abigail, I'm a thanatologist. I went so far as to study grief formally. Impressive, impressive. So, we have a lady here from Nigeria who was giving us an explanation of her name, Oreofe. Oreofolua means God's grace. Might there be some meaning to my name, even though a Christian name? Now, a lot of names in let me use a broad brush here. I need to use a broad brush here. There are many names in Africa that got Christianized or Islamicized. Okay. And so the name of the deity in the person's name was removed and replaced with God. The name of the deity usually is the deity of that family that would have normally been attached to the person's name, got removed, and they put in God's name, Olua, in the case, this Yoruba case, because in Yoruba, Olua means God. So there was a deity. If you do the research and you start digging back, you will find that that Oreofe was attached to a deity name. So there had to be something else. But because of Christianization, that deity name got cut off and Olua was put there. So let me just make this up. I'm going to make this up because I'm not a Yoruba expert. But let's say the original name was Oreofe Oshun. Then it would have meant the grace of Oshun. If it was Oreofe Shango, it would mean the grace of Shango, who was the patron deity of that family. So this is research you need to do. You need to go back to your roots and say, what were the ancient, what's the ancient origin of my name? And that will be very instructive to you because that would reveal to you the patron deity of your lineage. So if it's your father who gave you that name, it will reveal the patron deity of his lineage. If it's your mother who gave you that name, it would reveal the patron deity of your mother's lineage. It happened in a lot of places. They would take an African name, cut out the deity's name, the spirit guide's name, and stick in um, God or stick in Jesus. There are some people, and I've seen it among the Yorubas, which I thought was interesting because you could see somebody whose name was, for instance, they could say Orofe Jesus, and it'll be the person's name, you know? And that one is a glaring example of substitution. I can't think of those names right now, but there are some Yorubas from the continent, okay, that that they cut off the deity's name and replaced it with Jesus. And so you're looking at the person, and the person is. Uh, there was one that I used to know a while ago, and their name was something Jesus, you know, and Jesus was just attached. Okay. Amongst the Igbos, for instance, you would have somebody whose name is Why Jesus. Sometimes it's a title or a nickname, but there are some people who changed their name to Why Jesus, which means the child of Jesus. But maybe the original name was Wadike, the child of a warrior. Or Moye, the child of Oye market day, or Oye deity, because um, each market has its ruling deity. So Orie market has the Orie deity. Uh-huh. So Ayarofe is writing Ifabemi or Gumbemi becomes Oluwabemi. Correct. Correct. That's correct. So so you have when communities and ethnic groups became Christianized, and the missionaries, it happened even with Islam, they were told, oh, you should not have or represent in your name the name of your local deity. So in order to conform, they would cut out the deity's name. But they didn't realize that in cutting out that deity's name, they were discarding the the identity of the family and the power source of that family. Okay, Missy Faye says some from Mojeku to Chukwujeku due to Christianity. Correct. Because Mo, if I'm correct, it means a number of things. It means spirit, it can mean ancestor, it can mean deity. So they replaced it with Chukwu, which is God, the Yoruba equivalent of Oluwa. So now you have someone who is now whose name is Oluwabemi. Okay. And they want to do some research on their family. Do you see there's already a roadblock? Let's say the person is like, I want to return to my roots. You see, there's a roadblock because the person is like, okay, Oluwabemi, so where do I go from here? So they need to start going to their ancestral home to ask questions. And then they will discover the spiritual power source of their lineage. And once they start aligning with that lineage power source, they will start seeing changes in their lives. And they can opt to change their name back. Okay, I don't want to be Chukujiku, I want to be more Jiku. And of course, the Christianized or Islamicized members of the family will be screaming, "Oh, why do you want to do that? You're returning to demon worship." No, the person is trying to return to their roots. So these are things that we can see that, okay, when you went to Scotland, UK. So you can see the spiritual significance of these names. And when you start digging, Alpha Charm says authenticity. Yeah. But people wanted to fit in. Because remember, these missionaries were like, "You're going to hell. Our God is superior to your God." And just because they had technology, and these people were looking at the technology they had, they were like, "Oh, wow, indeed, your God must be superior to our God because of their technology." But look at where we are now. If we look at the technology that those missionaries used to bandy about, wouldn't we laugh at them today? Because the technology we have today is far superior to the technology that they had when they were colonizing and Christianizing and Islamicizing. There are some people who, and you might want to watch my video class on Are You the Deity? It's on YouTube. Okay, I made that video some years ago. Are you the deity? There are some people who are incarnations, not of their ancestors, but of certain deities in their lineage. And those deities need to be remembered. Okay, let's do the puzzle on TikTok. TikTok wants me to do a puzzle. Okay, right? And when that person shows up in that lineage as an incarnation of that deity, you will find out that the person's name will be aligned with that of that deity. When the person's mother is pregnant with them, the mother will be visited in the dream by the deity. And the deity will say, "This is what you need to name this child." And if the parent goes against that instruction, trouble will be visited upon that parent. Big trouble. And so when you have a name like that, okay, let me use the Aurel Folua as an example. Okay. And let's say she goes and does the research to find out what was the original Aurel name. What's deity name used to be attached to it before they started Christianizing it. She might discover the source of her lineage power. And if she starts skewing towards it and aligning herself with it, you will see changes happen in that lineage. Okay. So again, even though we may come about our names in strange ways or unusual ways, there's a reason for those names. Some people have truncated names. And I remember talking about this in one of my classes, that there was a name given to me that, in its full form, in a shortened form, it meant one thing, but in its full form, it meant something else. In the short form, it generally meant, in a general sense, I mean, I'm not going to go do a deep dive into it, but in a general sense, it meant the good person. But when you took the full, complete name as it was given by the ancient people, it meant people pay you back with cruelty. People never remember the good things that you do for them. So just shortening the name changed the implication of the name. So Alpha Charm says, my first name is Alpha Bundu, and I was happy to find out in Sierra Leone that they have these masks called Bundu mask, which is ancestral, but I don't know where my last name comes from. Now, Alpha Charm is Alpha Sierra Leonean. Alpha is not Sierra Leonean, it's Greek. And that you have an ancestral mask called a Bundu mask still doesn't tell you the meaning of Bundu. So you see, your situation is similar to that of Aurelphe's situation. What was the original name that was attached in front of Bundu? That's your homework. That's your assignment. You need to find out what was the original name that was attached to Bundu, and they took it out and put Alpha. And in your case, Alpha represents God. Because remember, Alpha and Omega, according to the Christians. So your name got Christianized just like Aurelphe's name. That's why you have Alpha Bundu. So your job is to find out two things. What was the name attached, the deity name, the spirit guide name that was attached to Bundu? Then you have that complete picture. Then you find out the meaning of that. Remember, I just gave an example. I was given a name that meant good person. But when you have the complete name, the meaning is totally different. What has your religion got to do with the names we're talking about? We're not interested in your religion. Your religion has nothing to do with it. Did you give yourself your name? Did you name yourself? So whether you're a Christian or not, or you're practicing, it's irrelevant to the discussion. Did you name yourself? So if you're listening to the class, remember I said these are names that you were assigned. Now we have situations where somebody doesn't like the name that they were given, and they're like, I'm going to answer to something else. And so they may go get that change legally or they just adopt it. That can be significant in itself. But like I mentioned earlier, the primary energetic signature is the name that they were given. Let's say, let me give an example. There are some people, for instance, that were abandoned as infants. Okay. So maybe it was a teenage mother who didn't want to know that, who didn't want people to know that she was pregnant, or maybe she didn't have the means of taking care of the child. And so what she did was she had the baby and dropped the baby somewhere, maybe in the bushes, by the dumpster, by the river. We know these things happen. And as she dumped that baby is unnamed. She didn't give that baby a name. Now, some might give the baby a name and then write a note and say, okay, here's baby Maria. But we have some instances where the mother just dropped the baby there and didn't give a name and took off. And so another person comes along and rescues the baby. Okay. So that person who comes along and rescues the baby now assigns a name to that baby. Okay? That becomes the baby's name. Even though that person did not give birth to the baby. But that person is the person who was meant to give that child a name. So we shouldn't get caught up on, it wasn't my birth mother who gave me my name, or it wasn't my birth father who gave me my name. The person who was supposed to give the name gave the name. And you run with it. Because maybe the birth mother or the birth father wasn't meant to give the name. Remember what Khalil Gibran said, your children are not your children. Some people are just meant to be portals through which souls show up here. That's their only function. You're going to be the portal. You're going to help this person come through, and that's it. Your job is done. Thank you for the 3 heart puffs, Empress Zana. I appreciate you, and thank you for the roses too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so that's why when people come to me in consultation and they're all hung up on, oh, my mother didn't do, my father didn't do, or my mother said, or my father said. I say to them, they were just a portal. They were just the door that you needed to use to come through. When you walk into a room through a door, do you spend all your time holding on to that door? Do you get obsessed with the door? No, you don't. You want to walk into a room, you open the door, you walk in. You don't stay there and hold on to the door and say, okay, oh, great and mighty door, I'm not going to let you go. You're the one who let me into the room. Because guess what? If you didn't get into that room through the door, you probably could have gotten in through the window. Okay? And if you couldn't get in through the window, you probably could have gotten in through the roof if you needed to be in that room. So you don't stand there and become enamored of the way that you got into the room. And I admit this is something of a mindset adjustment because we have been socialized to believe that, oh, nothing can separate you and your parents. If you're not close to your parents, then there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Your parents are portals. And some people have a good experience coming through those portals, and some people don't have a good experience coming through the portals. But we don't sit there and become obsessed with the portal. What we need to do is get obsessed with where we're headed to through that portal. Oh yeah, that's right, Miss Allen. You could probably get into the room through the fire escape. You understand? So the long and short of it is that we will get named the way that we will get named. Okay? Take the folks. I need to charge my phone. I'm going to adjust this. Okay? All right? We will get named the way we need to get named. Now, let's say you grow up and you notice that your given name is causing you problems. Okay? Because there are some people, when they have satisfied the requirements of the name that they were given, they're afraid to give up that name. Okay? So let's say, for instance, you were given the name Mary and you have fulfilled the requirements of that name. You can change it and answer something else and start a totally different phase in your life. Let's look at let's look at Mary. Mary is an Aramaic and Hebrew via Latin and Greek meaning beloved. bitter, drop of the sea, marine, rebelliousness, wished for child. It's the meaning of Mary and the variations of Mary. Mary means beloved. Mary means bitter. Mary means drop of the sea. Do you now see the connection to Mary as the queen of the sea? Do you see the connection? It means marine, of the waters. Do you see the connection again with Mary, queen of the sea, queen of the ocean? Mary means rebelliousness. Remember Miriam, the sister of Aaron? Mary means wished for child. They wanted a child. So now, let's say your name is Mary, or Miriam, or Marie, or Maria, and you're looking at all these definitions and you're saying, where is this operational within my life? What is happening? So there are some Marys that are beloved, and some Marys that are bitter. There are some Marys who are water priestesses. Would you like me to blow your mind? Would you like some forbidden fruit? If you like some forbidden fruit, let me have your AYE, in the comment section. What I want to say about Mary, Maria. Do you want some forbidden fruit? Just Jay? Okay, I see you. There's something I'm looking for here. Just give me a minute. Okay, I found what I'm looking for. Okay, so Miss Rosemary says I. Miss Ife says I. I guess nobody else on YouTube or TikTok wants to hear this, so should I keep it to myself? I want to say something about this marriage that many people I'm yet to hear someone talk about. Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, Kate. Should I keep this information to myself? And discuss it only with the advanced students, or do you want to hear it? Do you want to hear this, or should I share it just with the advanced students? Ras B says go ahead. Well, Ras B, you didn't say I. You're saying go ahead, but you didn't say I that you wanted to hear it. Okay. Miss Nola says I. LaMonica says I. Who wants to hear this? By Capricorn says, please tell us, but you haven't said I. That yes, you want to hear this. MJ says I. Ari says I. Oh my god. But Rasby, you haven't said I. I said if you want to hear us say I, A-Y-E, and you're there writing say it, I want to hear it. Okay. ERF says I. Sylvia says I. I'm just hearing from the YouTube people, so maybe I'm gonna say it over here on this side to the YouTube people and not say it to the TikTok people. Empress Zana says I. Rasby finally breaks down and says I. El Davila says I want to hear this, please. Okay. What do you think of the Catholic priests and the Catholic saints, male? Because remember, when I say priest, that means male. What do you think of the Catholic priests whose names are Marie? What do you think is going on? We have John Marie, John Maria, Paul Maria. What do you think is going on? Knowing that Maria means of the sea, knowing that Maria means marine, and then you have a Catholic priest, a Catholic pope, a Catholic saint, male, whose name is Marie. What do you think is going on? Cake baptism. You can't be serious. Rasby says connection to their mother. No. And Jewel says they're the head of the Marine Kingdom. It lets you know that these are water priests. Have you noticed that there are some priests and some popes that have been fanatical about Mary? Fanatical. Fanatical in their veneration of Mary. These are water priests. These are people who do things with water. And they use the secrets in the Catholic Church to do these things with water. And when they make holy water, their holy water is a lot different from the holy water made by other priests because they are spiritually authorized. Remember some classes ago when I was talking about spiritual authority? Somebody might come to you and say, I want to do some water rituals for you. I want to do some water spells for you. I want to do some water work for you. And you pay them money and it doesn't work out. It's because they're not spiritually authorized to do that. But when you have a Catholic priest who is so dedicated, so fanatical to Mary, and they even go as far as having Marie added to their Catholic name, because some of them were born and baptized with that name, Mary or Maria or Marie, added to their name. And some assumed the name after becoming a pope or after becoming a priest. It gives you an indication of what that person can do. They work with water. They can work with water. They can do things with water. They are of the water. Jewel says I was close. They can do magical things with water because that is what they came here to do. And if these people were following these priests, if they were following their own ancestral religions, they would be water priests. So you see how that Marie or Maria or Mary in their name identifies them. I grew up Anglican and Catholic. Father Murphy was crazy about planting outside the church ground Mother Mary with a flower garden. Jewel, my middle name is Maria. So have you figured out, Jewel, which of those definitions apply to you? Is it bitter? Is it beloved? Is it marine? Is it of the sea? Is it wished for child? Okay, Jewel says, I'm always getting dreams with me being in the water. Okay, are you surprised? Jewel is saying, I'm always having dreams of me in the water. So that tells you right there that your Maria has to do with the marine, has to do with the sea, because we just looked up, Mary means a drop of the sea. Little Davila said, I wondered about that a long while ago. Thank you for stating, confirming about the significant meaning of the name Marie for male priests. And I wonder if those male priests are aware of this. I think they are. They're not going to exactly come out in the church and make an announcement. Hear ye, I can do things with water. Hear ye, bring me your water so I can do things with it. Not exactly. Because, hello, Cabby, because back in the day, before Christianity and Islam and all these other religions, remember there were people identified by their occupation. There were people who used to be identified by their occupation. So if you look at English, for instance, you can see somebody whose name is blacksmith or somebody whose name is carpenter or smith. That lets you know the occupation of their ancestor. And I'm not talking about those who were enslaved, because remember, there were enslaved people who had to take on the last name of their slave master. So we're not talking about those. If you go to many places in Africa, in Europe, you have people whose last names or family names are based on what their occupation was. And generation after generation used to do that occupation. You have people whose names are Mason, they were builders. So, name is a big identifier of what the person is doing or what the person is supposed to do. It's a big identifier. And so you have these people who are in the Catholic Church, they are leaders, they're priests, they are saints, they're popes, and they have this huge veneration for a water deity, a water goddess. And sometimes they don't even know why they feel so attracted to and dedicated to Mary. They're like, oh no, I just feel it in my heart. The devotion is just overcoming me. That my love for Mary is overwhelming. And even they themselves don't even understand why. Many of them don't even understand why. They just think it's like, okay, I'm Catholic and I'm devoted to Mary. Why are they not devoted to Joseph? Why are they not devoted to Joseph, their fellow man? So you see that a lot of these names are not by choice, not by chance, sorry. There was a guy in Uganda, a priest in Uganda, who was considered the martyr of Uganda, Saint John Maria Musei. He was executed at the order of King Mwanga of Uganda for being a baptized Christian. He was a member of the royal court. So so sometimes you will find somebody is fanatical about something. Like someone was talking about a governor in Nigeria who wanted to replace all the traditional shrines with shrines to Mary. And he doesn't realize that he himself is a water priestess. I mean, a water priest. And even the Catholics themselves, some do and some don't realize that they are involved in ancestral veneration. And they're also in a water based religion. Catholicism is very much a water based religion. And so when they came to colonize, they were like, remove all your deities, gods, and goddesses, and idols, and we will replace them with ours. And of course, they don't make it that plain, but that's basically what it was. Because if I come to conquer you and I want to take you over, I'm going to replace your language. I'm going to replace your culture. I'm going to replace your religion. I'm going to replace your beliefs. I'm going to change your names so that my victory over you will be complete. I will get the hearts of your women because once I have the women, I have the culture, I have the people. And you find out that the Catholic religion flourished in lands where there's water. Have you noticed that? The Catholic religion flourished in lands where there's water. How many Catholics are there in Iraq? How many Catholics are there in Saudi Arabia? Okay. So you see, when we start looking into these names, it starts giving you an idea of what people are doing or what they're supposed to do. Now, Mr. Gichanga wrote earlier, I think he was very happy to say Peter means rock. Let me look for your comment. Okay. Peter wrote, Peter the rock, the only person who walked with Jesus on water, no one else except Peter. Wow. Mr. Gichanga, you do realize that that is an allegory. Because the only way a person can walk on water is if it's frozen. And the Sea of Galilee or whatever, or River Jordan, wherever that was talked about, was not frozen. So it was an allegory, allegorical story, allegorical narrative. Okay. But when we look at the name Peter, Peter was a constructed name. Okay, let's go to Google. Google says Peter is a common masculine given name. It is derived directly from Greek Petros, which was an invented masculine form of Greek Petra, the word for rock or stone, which itself was a translation of Aramaic kepha, stone or rock. The new name Jesus gave to Apostle Simon Bar Jonah. You see, that's a loaded statement. Let's start from the back. So you had this guy who was a follower of Jesus, and his name was Simon. Simon, the son of Jonah. Simon Bar Jonah. That bar means son of. And so Jesus gave him the name Kepha to signify the role he would play in the new religion of Christianity. Okay? So the original was Kepha in Aramaic. So when the Greeks came along, okay, they said, what does Kepha mean? And they said Kepha means stone, rock. And in Greek, stone or rock was Petra. So they created a masculine form of Petra and called it Petros. Because the rock in itself in Greek was neither masculine nor feminine. But in order to make it into a male name, they changed it to Petros, which tells me they had a feminine version, probably Petras. Okay, I'm not a Greek scholar. Okay. But do you see that Peter or Petros or Kepha was not the original name of that apostle? His name was Simon. His name was Simon. So if you want to know the energetic imprint of the young man, who was not Simeon, Paula McGee, not Simeon, Simon, not Simeon. Simon is different from Simeon. Okay? You have to find the energetic imprint. Okay? So let's look at Simon. Because remember, he used to be called Simon Peter. Simon Peter, not Simeon Peter, but Simon Peter, to differentiate him from the other Simon. Simon is a given name from Hebrew meaning listen or hearing. It is also a classical Greek name deriving from an adjective meaning flat-nosed. In the 1st century AD, Simon was the most popular male name for Jews in Roman Judea. Simon meant listen or listening. Sorry about the noise. So do you see his name being changed from Simon to Kepha was a kind of promotion, a change in role. And remember, was it yesterday, 2 days ago? Those of you who are members, we talked about elder initiation being an elevation in status. An elevation in status. And so basically, Simon Bar Jonah was elevated from the status of a disciple to the status of an apostle. So out of the 120 disciples, he became one of the 12 apostles. And with that change in status came a change in name to define his new role within the apostlehood. So you see again that the name defines what the person is supposed to do. So he went from just being a listener to being a foundation, to being the strength of others. And even though the Catholic Church made him the father of the church, the leader of the church, if you notice, that's not what he was called to do. Because when you look at the Bible and what Jesus said, upon you will I build my church. He didn't say to him, I want you to lead my church. He says, you are the foundation upon which I will build my church. So Peter, Kepha, is foundation. But the one who is meant to bear the burden, the one who is meant to support, that's a Peter. Remember the other day we were talking about dominant and submissive in relationships? Believe it or not, the Peter is the supporter, the submissive, the one who supports others. Remember we talked about the 50th step, the 50th block and the 49th block? Remember we talked about that? Peter is the 49th block. Peter is the 49th step. So that the 50th can exist. So that the 50th can execute. Peter's a supporter. Peter's the foundation. Not the leader. Upon you, you're the rock upon which I'll build my church. You're the one who will be feeding my sheep. The people who will be following my religion, sheep. Peter is a foundation. And so when you have a son in the family who is meant to be a burden bearer, he is the Peter. the one who stays in the background and ensures that others shine, that others prosper, others do well. That is the function of the Peter. And so when the Peter prays his spiritual prayer, when Peter prays or says his invocations, he says, "Give me strength, give me resources." Hold on, I want to look at something right quick. Mhm. Okay. Fence fixing. Okay. So Peter says, "Give me strength so that I can support, I can supply, I can uphold, I can withstand." And Peter, in contradistinction to the Maries and the Marias, is the earth priest, priest of the element of earth. What he says goes for generations. "I will build my church on this rock." Look at how long the Catholic Church has endured from generation to generation to generation to generation to generation to generation to generation. Why? Because the earth element was invoked. And if you watch my video on earth element people, go to my YouTube channel and watch earth element people. You see that the effect, the work, the roles, the words of earth element people persist from generation to generation. So you see how appropriate it was for Jesus to say, "You are the rock upon which I'll build my church." He didn't say, "You are the water upon which I'll build my church." He didn't say, "You are the fire, you're the air upon which I'll build my church." No, you're the rock. You're going to be the load bearer. That is what you're going to be doing. You're going to carry the load. You're going to bear the load. You're going to be the one supporting. And so what Peter prays, "May I be given the strength to fulfill my obligation. May I be given the resources. May my wealth never end so that I can provide the support that I need to be providing. May my abundance never end. May my abundance ever be limitless. May the wealth of the earth be mine." So, are you seeing how you can start incorporating your name into your invocations and your prayers so that everything is in alignment? Are you picking up what I'm dropping here? Are you understanding what I'm talking about? Is it making sense to you? we still awake? Are we deep in thought? You can use your name to pray, to make your invocations, to assist your life destiny. You can do that. You can leverage your name in your prayers and invocations. And you should do so. And if you are at some point where you're like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing, a quick thing you can do is to look at your name. Go do some research on that name or names because you have people who have multiple names. Hello, Dr. Karen. Now, someone had asked a question, how about when you get married and change your name? Those are additional roles should you choose to change your name. Now, the changing of name is a fairly recent thing with the Abrahamic religions because in many cultures, the woman always retained her father's name as an identifier. And I talked about this in a previous touching base. The woman was always identified. So when remember when I was talking about family trees and lineages and things like that before Christianity, when Christianity came and started removing women's influence and imprint on things, when you're going through it, you're listening to a griot, for instance, or someone who tells, recites the family lineages. You will say, Peter married Maria, the daughter of. Okay, Renee says, I kept my father's in marriage and after. Yeah, me too. Okay. Because when you are reciting that lineage, you want to know who is this person's mother. And if that woman came from a significant family, you want to know and remember that family of significance that she came from. So, yes, Peter married Mary, the daughter of Smith, because Smith was a significant family. And the descendants of Mary need to know that Mary came from the family of Smith before she married Peter. So that if there are things that were passed through her lineage, they would know where to go looking. But when you take away the woman's identity totally, you've introduced a roadblock. So that's why you need to know the mother's family and the father's family. That's why when you go for your medical checkup, they say, do you have this in your mother's family? Do you have that in your father's family? They want to know the genetic history of illnesses and stuff going on. Okay. So we've put in 2 hours in today's impromptu class about names, the spiritual significance of names. I am sorry I was unable to get to everybody's names, but I hope that you were able to learn something. Now, if I have time later on this evening, I will come back on and we will continue this really interesting conversation. Okay. If you need to go get a divination to know more about your name, please do so. If you can go do some research about your names, go do so. When you change your name, you are adding more roles and responsibilities to your original life destiny plan. You're adding to it, not subtracting. We need to recognize that because the original imprint remains. And I think this is a pretty fascinating topic. Wouldn't you say so? So I'll go get on with the other things that I have to do today. Thank you for coming to class. It's been a pleasure interacting with everyone here. And like I said, if I have time, I'll come on again later on this evening. And we'll continue this conversation about names, the spiritual meanings of names, the significance, the things we can do with our names. And before I go, I want you to think about this. Do you see how someone can interfere with your life destiny when they know your name? Especially when they know your original name. And if the person is spiritually knowledgeable, spiritually powerful, they can interfere. And do you see why naming is very important? So when the colonizers were colonizing people, do you see why they were changing people's names? They were changing the spiritual destiny of the people they were colonizing. And it wasn't just like for social reasons or financial reasons, there were deeper spiritual implications to that. Okay. So, like I said, if I have time later on this evening, I'll come back on and then we can talk more about that. Dr. Karen, it is fascinating. Big up to women who use double barrel surname or just stick with their own surname. There are some men who get married to their wives and they drop their surname and take on their wife's surname. It happens because sometimes a person discovers that the burden of a family name, because remember that the burden of a personal name is different from the burden of a family name. The burden that comes to you from your own name is different. The rewards and punishments that comes from your personal name is different from that of your family name. And so some people, if they can't deal with that which comes with a family name, they'll jump ship. Okay. They'll jump ship and you don't blame them. There was this gentleman um, I met many years ago whose name was Dr. Slaughter. And he was a doctor, and his family name is Slaughter. And believe it or not, do you know he was in the palliative care industry? Dr. Slaughter in the palliative care industry. People with terminal illnesses. Do you see that alignment right there? Dr. Slaughter in palliative care of those with terminal illnesses. Do you see that? So was he where he was supposed to be? Okay. We're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirits, and our ancestors for today's class. Ashe. Okay, remember if you need to get a hold of me, you can go to my website at tochi.us. I'm available for divinations, consultations without divinations, dream interpretation, spiritual practice coaching, and more. Okay, remember to watch the free videos and clips on practical spirituality on the platform where you are seeing this video. Love you all.